Welcome back to the Chats and Chapters YouTube channel. So this is our first official YouTube video that is not the podcast. I'm sure you've seen it. We've probably all seen it at this point, but I have been watching it unfold for a bit now. The Audra Winters Age of Scorpius BookTok, TikTok drama. And I want to talk about it from an editor's perspective. So my name's Caitlin. I am a book editor, and I haven't really seen anyone talk about it from this perspective. I've seen a lot of readers talk about it, a lot of other authors talk about it. It has many indie authors worried and really questioning their stories at this point because of this whole situation. So buckle up. I just want to touch on a few things that I think are important, and we're just going to have a good old chit chat about book talk drama. So I have a fresh matcha that I will be sipping on, and let's dive in. Like I said, I am coming at this from an editor's perspective. So if you clicked on this video and you don't know what's going on and you've been living under a rock, Audra Winter released The Age of Scorpius. She built up a following on TikTok and had, I think, like 5,000 or 6,000 pre-orders from her TikTok shop for her book. She's created this whole world, and yeah, when people received the book, they were not very happy. Apparently, grammar and everything was bad editing. I heard there was underdeveloped characters, a lot of repetition, formatting inconsistencies. So all things that you would not expect from a book that an author has been working on for 10 years, especially because she was promoting and talking about how she had this whole team behind her book working on it, helping her bring it to life. So yeah, understandably, people were a little mad. I think people have requested refunds. I don't know. I don't think she's doing refunds, which I can see both sides. I can understand wanting a refund, but at the same time, you took the chance on an indie author without having any prior information about their writing. You just took her videos and market. Apparently, she's very, very good at marketing. And you took all of that at face value and you took a chance and it didn't pan out. So I don't know. I do see both sides. I see the annoyance and frustration from the readers, and I also see the you took that chance, like that was a bad investment. Basically, it was a bad investment. Stock market's not going to give you a refund. So moving on, she is planning to release a second edition, which just blows my mind. I think she was originally going to release it in December, but I think it's been pushed back to spring of 2026. She has a new team from what I have seen, and she is having daily meetings with artists and this, that, and the other, who's putting everything together. And like, from what I have seen, the art was not the problem. The story seems to be what people had issues with. The grammar, the delivery, everything like that. So before jumping too much further into this, we're going to break down the ways a book gets into the world. So you have big traditional publishing. Writers have to reach out to the big five, and their story has to stand out against thousands of others. So the publishing house invests in you and your story. It takes on the cost to get your book ready for the readers. At that point, you do literally have a team of editors who are really tightening up your story, changing a few things, making suggestions. You have artists who are working on the covers, this, that, and the other. And then the second way is you have small publishing companies. So some of these will take on the cost of editing and promoting, and some won't. And then you have indie authors, which is writers and authors publishing their own work through Amazon typically, and they promote on TikTok or Instagram, just like Audra did. As far as edits go, I always, always suggest that indie authors go through my version of a copy edit and a final proofread before releasing their book. So a lot of them will go through beta readers and do developmental edits kind of with that background. And then if you are writing a fantasy or a series, then I always suggest a copy edit and, of course, a final proofread, because not that grammar and punctuation matter, but it is distracting to the readers. It pulls them out of the story, and that is not what you want while your readers are reading your book. So, this is not to say that you have to have it perfect. I notice even in traditionally published books that the editing is lacking a little bit. Like, there are things that I would change that sound a little wonky. And if I was doing the line edit on it, I would suggest something different. There's wrong punctuation, misspelled words, everything like that. It's not getting it to be absolutely perfect, but it is making it the best that you can be. And I think the issue with the Audra Winter situation is that she clearly did not put her best foot forward. Like I said, that doesn't have to be your perfect foot. It just has to be your best foot. And she didn't. She didn't at all. So since I work with indie authors, that is the angle that I'm coming from with this entire video. With indie authors, the author has the final say. And that is point blank, end of discussion, period. The author has the final say. So in traditional publishing, your book kind of like takes on a life of its own. I watched an interview with J.K. Rowling, and like she wasn't involved in the Potter covers, really any of that, until like she said maybe towards the end of the series when it really got big and like they wanted her opinion. But that's more for another episode. So subscribe so you don't miss that discussion. But you're not involved much, if at all, on like the bigger scale things of what's going on with your story in traditional publishing. But if you're publishing your book yourself, you have a say in every single thing. And like with all the authors that I work with, most of them are designing their own covers. They are going through and they are Googling and trying to figure out how to get the ISBNs, how to do this, how to do that. They go through multiple rounds of edits on their own before they reach out to me to do a professional round of edits. Like they are doing so much on their own. They have a say in everything. And Audra Winter is the same. Like she should have gone through multiple rounds of edits herself before bringing the team on. And this is where I have an issue with things that I've seen as a book editor. When all of this first came out, all I was seeing is like people kept asking, didn't she have an editor? Didn't she have an editor? I thought she had an editor. She had an entire team. And I'm like, she said she did. She said she brought on an entire team, and it doesn't seem like she used them. So my biggest thing is, just because you hire an editor, just because you have an editor look at your story, it does not mean that you take all of their feedback. And that's within her right as the writer, obviously, because I work with clients every day. And in every single email and every manuscript I send back, I tell them, this is your story. My suggestions are only my suggestions. Leave anything that doesn't resonate. So you, as the writer, as the author, know your story best. It came from your brain. So if the editor suggests something, especially if it's in a series or it comes back around later and that won't line up, then you just ignore it and say, nope, I have other plans. That's no big deal. But my thing is, don't think that editors have the final say, because we most definitely do not. Our name is not on the book. The book is not our intellectual property. It did not come from our brain. Like, we review it, we give input, we give suggestions, we brainstorm, we're sounding boards, we're backboards, like all of the thing, but like we don't have the final say. So this leads into, I heard that at some point, I read it in a comment, someone said that she stated that she didn't have time to take in her first round of editors' feedback because she was too busy setting up her LLC, hiring people for her huge business now, because that's now her thing, is like she's an entrepreneur And she, like, is a six-figure business, and she she didn't have the time to actually go through the edits and improve her story because she built this huge business. So it very much seems at this point that she just wants to be a business owner and not necessarily an author. Like, her most recent updates are on, meeting with her team and she's doing sprayed edges, she's doing special editions, like different art in the covers, this, that, and the other. Like, she's very much acting like she's a publishing house, like doing special things to this updated version. Basically, she's basically doing everything except improving the writing, which is what people complained about when they received the first copy. I love a good boss babe CEO moment, okay? Catch me out here loving running my own business. I love it. Like, I do, but I wouldn't have a business if I didn't deliver a solid product to my clients. And that, I think, is going to be interesting to see how this goes, because she's not focusing on the story. I don't know if she really wants to be an author or if she really wants to just have a big business, because now she's making it an entire media business where she's having graphic designers and musicians. I don't know what these musicians are going to do, but you can't have a sustainable business with a shit product. Like, it doesn't work that way. I'd love to know your opinion on, do you think she should have given refunds to people who pre-ordered this book blindly and wanted the refund? Or do you think that those people should have waited? I think the whole thing has changed the landscape of indie publishing at this point, because I've had so many people reach out to me for editing now. They're like, I felt really good about it, but now I'm concerned because the Audra Winter situation, and now I'm like, I feel like it's crap. Like, I don't know. And so I don't know. I find it really interesting, and I'm interested to see what is going to happen going forward, how this will impact and kind of sway the way that indie authors go about publishing. And like, if it's going to, because there's also a shift in traditional publishing. I find a lot more mistakes and kind of wishy-washy writing in traditionally published books now within the last probably 5 to 10 years than I did years and years ago. And I think it's because reading has become such a hot topic again, and they are just pushing out books as fast as possible and not necessarily spending the time nurturing and really creating the book and the story that is going to hit with the readers and the story that needs to be told. So I think it's really interesting, because at this point, I do think the way that Audra Winter is going about her business and the second round of editing for all of this is more on, and like the sprayed edges and the different covers and the end pages and all of this, it feels very much like traditional publishing, like stuff you would see in Barnes and Noble, and not necessarily what you would find from an indie author. Not that it's bad, but an indie author whose first release failed horribly. Yeah, I just think it's going to be really interesting. And it begs the question of like, what do authors owe readers, really? I think as anyone, to put your own work out there, you want it to be the best that it can be. And I think you have to, like, if you want people to really resonate with it, you have to put the time and the effort into it. And I just don't think that I think she obviously missed the mark on that. And yeah, I think it'll be fascinating to see how this plays out. If she still has, a six-figure business in a year or a year and a half. And I'm interested to see how this re-release happens, because I don't know. I have never seen such an emphasis put on editors before. Like when I work on a book, I'm invisible. And unless the author mentions me, you'd have no idea that I worked on that book. The fact that she keeps saying we when, it's her book. Like it's not her editor's book. It's not her graphic designer's book. It's not her musician's book. If she's been working on this for so long, I just think it's fascinating. It feels like she's given away so much of her author writer power to other people throughout this process. So I don't know. I think it's really interesting. I'm fascinated with the whole situation and kind of how this pans out and will shape indie publishing going forward, indie authors and how they treat their work, really. I think it's fascinating. So I would love to know your thoughts if you think she should give refunds, if you think readers deserve that, if you think that writers and authors don't owe readers anything. I'm interested if you agree or disagree because, like I said, it's such a fascinating situation. It's such a fascinating time we're in, really. So that is going to wrap up this video here, and I will be back next week. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and don't forget to like and subscribe and stick around, and I will see you next week.